Hello everyone, welcome to another classic toy review from Scorched Earth Toys at anymoon.com. Today I'm reviewing Takatoku's 155 scale VF1 toys and gift sets. This review also covers the later Bandai toys released throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, including the Super Ostrich, Elin Seeker, Hikaru Strike VF1S, although I won't be putting them up on camera, so visit anymoon.com for lots of pictures. The toy in front of you now is Bandai's 2002 reissue of the Takatoku Super VF1S. It shouldn't be confused with the 1990 retooling of Takatoku Super VF1S, which removed these landing gear doors. It had a much rounder head, and it also had a clear canopy with a slide-over heat shield. You can see pictures of all that up on anymoon.com. So Bandai dropped these improvements in 2002 when it reissued essentially the exact same Takatoku toy. With three exceptions. One, this toy comes in a much less attractive box. Takatoku made killer boxes. Second, Takatoku had a lot of factory applied stickers on this Bandai toy. They're all painted on, so that's really nice. Third, Takatoku didn't have a canopy cover. One is included, and it's swap out with the canopy on this Bandai toy. In 2008, Bandai began reissuing Takatoku Valks, including the VF1J with the swap-out canopy that was missed in 2001. But this origin of Valkyrie line was short-lived when a planned distribution deal with Toynami that would have been the first Robotech releases of the old Chunky Monkey in the States unraveled, presumably because Big West does not allow licensees to distribute their product internationally due to the ongoing animosity with Tatsunoko, which I'm probably saying horribly wrong. This was a shame, as Bandai had hinted that this line was going to include never-before-seen versions of the Valkyries. They had already released Max's VF1A as a gift set. That was a new Chunky Monkey release. They had also hinted there'd be a VF1D and maybe reissues of the Elin Seeker, Ostrich, and Strike VF1S. So that would have been cool if it happened, but when the Toynami deal unraveled, that was the end of that. Which kind of leads into Jetfire and why we haven't ever seen a Robotech Chunky Monkey. The history of Jetfire begins with the bankruptcy of Takatoku in 1984. At that point, Matsuhiro, who was another toy company who actually engineered the 155 VF1 toy, took ownership of the molds of the Valkyrie. This might have been for a lot of reasons, including debts related to the engineering of this toy, or it might have been due to the close relationship the two companies had. Takatoku might have sold them at a bargain, but who knows. Long story short, Matsuhiro struck a deal with Hasbro to release the VF1 Valkyrie as a new Transformer. This was before the courts must have awarded Bandai rights to the molds. Bandai then continued to fulfill the orders that Hasbro had made, but shortly thereafter, the movie Macross Do You Remember Love was released in Japan, was a big hit. Bandai switched over to making Valkyries again rather than Transformers. Takara, in the meantime, couldn't do anything with Jetfire in Japan because of the continuing popularity of Macross. So that kind of led to the end of Jetfire. Also, Harmony Gold licensed from Tatsunoko the rights to Robotech, or Macross, which was incorporated into Robotech, and all the merchandising rights that went along with that. So Hasbro could no longer show Jetfire, nor had they ever been able to, because it was such a short time window. I have a better write-up on anymoon.com that kind of goes into it just a little bit more. But let's get into this toy now. Alright, enough with the blah blah blah, let's hear some click click clicks. So, the arms on these toys were, in my history, the weak point. They are ratcheted shoulders. But within that shoulder is a plastic retainer that gets worn down over time. And all my Jetfires eventually lost their arms. There is an accessory clip that the gun can be stowed on the forearm with. I thought this was kind of silly, because the width of the gun handle is just slightly thicker than the width of this transformation mechanism here. This slide. So had the gun handle been just a little bit thinner, you would have been able just to plug it right into the arm anyway. So that always seemed a little bit silly to me. You have about exactly 90 degrees of elbow articulation. There's a swivel there, and there's also this joint right here So, decent articulation of the arms. There's no swiveling of the fists, which is a bit of a bummer. And obviously no articulated fingers or anything like that. You do have a swivel for the head, and the head guns are articulated. You can't really angle the head up or down more than the transformation mechanism it's on allows. Beyond that, you have the Garwalk joint, which is limited in how far it can go back by the wings. So if you open up the wings, you can obviously go all the way back at the hip. Then you had a knee joint, which could get you 90 degrees forward, well, back I should say, or that far forward. So not very far forward for the Garwalk, but you go like that, you're doing all right. There is no twist at the knee, and the feet can just open and close, so there's no real ankle articulation to speak of. There's no waist. Articulation's pretty limited, although for that era, for a Transformer, it's pretty solid. I'll show you some good running pictures, stuff like that on anymoon.com. Alright, let's go ahead and transform this bad boy into Garwalk mode. I suspect most people watching this review have transformed this toy themselves, so I'm going to go through it pretty quick here. Begin by opening up the wings in the back. You bring the guns forward, keep them out of harm's way, and you disconnect that back plate. You lift up the trap door here. You can rotate the head around. It now can go through and down into position here. You close the trap door and make sure these tabs right here are on the outside of that back plate. Bring it back and push it into place. Now you're going to, well, we're going to be in Garwalk mode, so we're going to bring these arms forward, and we're going to bring the legs, which have little knobs that go into the nose cone there, bring them back. Bring the legs forward, bring your wings back out of harm's way, and now you're going to try to get this arm at a bit of a angle. Like you see there, it's a little awkward, but you can now click the legs into position. So they will not go anywhere on you. Okay. You click them forward one, like I showed you in the Batroid articulation section. Bring your wings back out. Fold your backpack back over. Now this would be, if you had an original gray Takatoku, how the toy would look with the canopy cover permanently affixed. This is a Bandai reissue though, so I can actually pop this off and put on the canopy like so. And now it looks like a Takatoku Super VF1S. Again, this is the Bandai 2002 reissue. So that's how you transform into Garwalk mode. Once in Garwalk mode, there really isn't much you could do. You can get a sort of level looking Garwalk, you can bring it down the one peg. The arms are a little awkward because they're angled, but you can actually, articulate the arms fairly well. You can go ahead and throw the gun back on, but you're always, since you can't rotate that fist, it's always going to be at somewhat of a weird angle. And really that's all there is to Garwalk mode. Not really the strong point of this toy. As you probably recall, going from Garwalk to fighter mode is quick and easy. Just bring the legs back forward, rotate the arms around, and bring the fist in. The arms should click into place. You might do so more on some toys than others. So there you go. Now your arms are nice, snug, they're not going anywhere. Now you bring the legs back to where they were and just push them down so they are nice and straight. Close your feet and open up your tail fins. There's a little nub on the tail fin. You will go over that nub and then that locks the tail fins into position. On some of the toys, I'm a little scared to do that. It's not like the classic Super Ostrich or Lintseeker. A little scary to press that tail fin over that bump for fear you might break something on such an expensive and rare toy. So this is fighter mode. Alright, once you're in fighter mode, you'll probably remember the one gimmick that hurt your fingers the most, and that's the spring-loaded landing gear, which if you weren't careful about, you could really pop a finger with. There you go. These had nice rolly wheels, and for the most part they didn't collapse too much, although the front landing gear, especially with ones that were a little more worn and wore super parts, could occasionally collapse a little bit on you. What was a bummer is you couldn't fit the gun on in fighter mode. Again, what I referred to earlier is it would have been nice if you could have fit the gun into this sliding mechanism. The handle would have had to be a lot shorter, so maybe that's a big part of the reason why. But there isn't really anything else to mention for fighter mode besides those landing gears. You can see the back legs droop a little bit if you're not holding them. Nothing nearly as bad as Toynami's Masterpiece Collection VF1s. The hands also droop a little bit towards the back. And, you know, there's nothing really holding things together like there are on the newer, more modern toys that really lock all the legs, arms, and backpack into place for you. The head obviously is comically oversized for fighter mode. Newer toys do a much better job recessing it. But that was it. That's what you got, and it was a ton of fun back in the day. I wish Bandai would have updated it a little bit more than just putting some paint applications on it and a clip-on heat shield, but it is what it is. Thanks for viewing. I'm going to have lots of pictures on anymoon.com of all the different variants.